No, I'm alright. Yeah, I just want to ask you, Fintan, what you think of Minister Howland's big fanfare announcement about the new school project in Wexford Town today, when rural schools are being cut to the bone and SNAs are being axed all over the county.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is exaggerated. Like I saw something similar in Castletown, where the impression was given that there was a new school being built, and then you realise it's 4 rooms, 4 basically concrete rooms to replace 4 prefabs. And as you know, like, I mean, that's been the biggest waste of money over the past couple of years. Basically, handing people over hundreds of thousands, handing a company over hundreds of thousands per year for prefabs, and the school is still never properly, there's no proper facilities. That's one of the biggest scandals from the last government, to actually keep paying for these prefabs. I know friends who are at Gael School in Cabra, they've been in one for 14 years. Can you imagine the amount of money? Something like 15 different prefabs for 14 years, and that's going to a local company, and even though some of the rooms are actually rat infested. So I take it with a grain of salt. I spoke to the principal of the CBS in Gorey as well, and people had understood CBS in Gorey, St. Joseph's have a very substandard building, like, for the last several years, and they thought that they were going to be, it was more or less announced that they were getting a new school recently, but what it is it's a cramped school where there's no space, so they're going to basically replace the prefabs with like a concrete building, but the concrete building is on a tiny site, so it's still going to be cramped. So in a few years' time, if they say that the school will be moved to a proper site on the edge of the town, that building is going to be actually derelict, or it's going to be defunct, so you're going to have to build another one again. So they're basically, instead of giving them the proper school on the edge of the town where there's space in the first place, they're wasting money on doing a temporary construction, and then maybe having to take it down in a couple of years' time, or move them on to a different. So I take it with a grain of salt. A lot of these things are stage managed, and I mean, obviously you'd welcome any sort of progress. I mean, obviously the recent decisions on the prefabs, that's some progress, but it's only the tip of the iceberg of what needs to be done, and most of these things are made up and exaggerated. Just for
TD stood up in the Dáil when they were introducing a property tax, and he said it was immoral, unjust and unfair to tax any man's home. That man was Enda Kenny. Now, if we can all see the double standards here, and we're all fed up with it, everyone's fed up with the teeth of it. I have a friend like that man down there, lives a couple of doors away from me. He's been 3 times getting his mortgage redone. He's in dire straits. I'm looking at that man every day in the week. He's 3 kids. There's something very unfair in this country, and we all know what it is. It's the government. It's simple. That's the message that's coming out from everybody. It's not fair. How can they, even next weekend, they're all going to all over the world under the guise of coming back with some sort of great contracts that they're going to bring up to boost up the country. We all know it's false. We all know it doesn't happen. Every St. Paddy's Day happens. St. Patrick's Day happens. They go off, spend their money. They don't care. It doesn't affect them. Those people are recession-free. They always will be recession-free. That's why they don't care. Because they have enough money. And the people with money don't care with the people who have no money. And that's the way it is. So this is a small village, and I'm just saying to each and every one of you, empower yourself. Go off from this little village here and go to your friends tomorrow and speak about it. And add it on that way, by that way. But each time you speak to someone else, the word message gets round and gets round and gets round. We've had enough. As the lad said, everybody's had enough. But it's becoming where it's gone beyond a joke. It's just really gone beyond a joke. The way they're treating the people and the way they're behaving themselves. Thanks very much. That's all I say.
I sent 4 emails to councillors, TDs in Wicklow and Wexford, and I got one reply from Brendan Howland, which I could have wrote myself, and I replied to him again, and he didn't. I couldn't pin him on the questions because he just wouldn't answer them. So I suppose, like, I mean, in fairness, like, I suppose Sinn Féin are saying they're putting in the facts of the consequences of the household charge and what could come in the line. But I suppose between now and the end of the month, like, what would Sinn Féin be suggesting people do in terms of, should we keep on emailing, ringing TDs because they're not answering emails? As you've said there, Paul Keogh didn't turn up to his own office earlier in the month. So I mean, what should people do? People are frustrated, and how did they vent that? Like, do we just keep on emailing and ringing TDs offices?
Simple answer to that is absolutely. Unfortunately, these people, once they get elected, they think that's the end of the democratic process. But democracy is, you know, the people speaking and putting someone in there to represent their views and their opinions, for them to work to better their lives. And unfortunately, this government, after all the criticism they done of Fianna Fáil and the Green Party about their lack of democratic principles, and that they've, like other things, followed them down the exact same path. And already, you know, after 1 year, not after 15 years of government of Fianna Fáil and the Greens, after 1 year, they've already lost the people. You know, they've totally, I suppose, alienated themselves and cut off the real situation on the ground, where, you know, a minister is able to come out and say, sure, it's only €2 a week. What impact is that going to have on someone? But, you know, that €2 a week, that minister might not know is the difference between putting a sliced pan on the table for a young family, or for them, you know, to go without. Now, it's all well and good for him. He can go and continue sipping on his champagne and caviar in you know, a restaurant in Leinster House or whatever, but not for the ordinary people on the ground. And, you know, I've heard so many different stories of TDs, of ministers, just basically giving the two fingers to the people that put them in there to represent them. And there was an example there in Wicklow, and it was to do with the cuts to St Columkille's Hospital there, the A&E. There was a motion put forward by Sinn Féin within Leinster House dealing with the attacks on all of the smaller hospitals, the A&Es throughout the state, because there's in the region of 12 different hospitals facing the real risk of losing services. And part of that motion was dealing with the A&E within St Columkille's. And anyone that knows St Columkille's knows darn well that it's in Sound County Dublin. It's in the same constituency as Eamon Gilmore, surprise, surprise. Someone that made a name for himself over many years campaigning and trying to protect services within that hospital. And he's kind of flip-flopping on the issue. But one of my political opponents in Wicklow, who did get elected, another Labour TD, Anne Ferris, also made a name for herself over many years of campaigning for the protection and upgrading of services within that hospital. Now, when that vote on the Sinn Féin motion was being held in Leinster House, and this is all, and it probably touches on the point that was made there earlier on, as to who knows what way people voted within Leinster House. It's all there on the public record. It's all there. It's all there's websites and that shows clearly who voted what way. But the noticeable exception to that vote in Leinster House was the very said Anne Ferris, who it turned out was on a junket over in Germany, rather than partaking in a crucial vote being held on the protection of medical services in our own constituency. So that kind of shows you where these people are at. You know, they're the same people that, you know, whilst they were still in their kind of their 1-2 month honeymoon period, you know, brought in all these changes, you know, twinkling around at the edges around their wages and capping salaries for consultants and that. And, you know, they made a big fanfare about putting a cap of €100,000 on some senior people, you know, outsiders, consultants, put a cap of €100,000 on it. But we've seen time and time again, not only Enda Kenny, but other senior ministers have gone and lobbied, Howland is another one, lobbied to get their own consultants increased pay, you know, breaching that cap that they only brought in a few short months beforehand. 37,000, thanks Johnny. And I think Enda Kenny's case was something like 23,000, and then all the perks on top of that as well. So, I mean, they think they can hoodwink the people into believing they're doing something else. But by God, this is a new generation. There's, you know, myself and Johnny were talking earlier on about, you know, social media, Facebook, Twitter, the internet, YouTube, all of those things. And people are more informed now. People know what our politicians do, and this thing of trying to ride two horses, them days are gone, because what you say is on the public record, and by God, they will be held account. Because I can safely say to you, they were elected for 5 years, but if they continue at the rate they're going, if they continue shoving their austerity down our throats, people are rising up. And as the old saying says, you know, beware of the risen people. So, thank you.
By the people. How many times elected by the people, for the people? How many times have we seen prime time programmes where there was very, very serious matters brought up, and there was a request sent out for a minister from the in that department, depending on what department they were focusing on. And they said there was no minister available that night to come to the prime time. I think there should be a law there that it should be bloody well made come to the programme and stand up and give account to themselves. But they're not doing it. They're not doing it.
These people are supporting household taxes and other austerity measures on the Irish people. Well, then they should have their picture put up on some posters or billboards. So the people of Wexford know. A lot of people, my computer's broke. I can't afford a new computer for another month or two. That's the way it is. But a lot of people have to know who these people are, and it's pressure like this that will change them. They'll cancel the holidays quick because they realise they're not going to get voted back in Wexford if they're running these austerity measures and supporting them on the Wexford and Irish people. You know, somebody hit a point there about the universal social charge and pay cuts. Well, that bank manager did an assessment on me. She looked at where I was in 2006 when I got my mortgage, and she looked at where I was this month. And she was calculating your €300–400 less a month. And she put that down to the universal social charge and to my pay cut for my job. And these are things that now they're sewing in these household taxes. I've had to borrow money from my children's piggy banks on days to buy diesel to drive to work, or to buy food to put on the table. And that's the stage where the Irish people are at. And we hear the terrible stories of that poor girl losing her ESB. It's getting worse and worse. And these people have to be shown. This person here is supporting you paying your household tax. And show them up. Show them to the people who they are. If they say, yes, I support this, put them up on a board. He's our representative. Let the people of Wexford see it.
It's going to prove how out of touch with the public this government is when they attempted to celebrate their 1 year in government by a big force shoot up in Dublin and the waving of flags. That will show you what people they're dealing with, how out of touch they are. They were going to celebrate what their achievements they had done over the 1 year when in government. The achievements they have is shoving this austerity down the people of Ireland's throats. But that's one thing they have definitely achieved. Thank you.
I'll be very brief. Earlier on I touched on a campaign, a national campaign that Sinn Féin are running, and the points that people have made here will be fed into that process. And we'll be producing a substantial document at the end of that as a way to try force the hand of the government. And you know, I wouldn't blame people asking as to whether that's going to have any effect on them or not. But look, people have to stand up, people have to speak out, because I've never seen anyone to win a fight without actually starting in the first case. And that fight is starting in communities all over the country. People are coming out in their 10s and their 20s and their 30s and the much larger meetings throughout the state. And that's crucial that we do so. Because the last thing we need at this point in time is to be browbeaten back by them and to be told there is no alternative. But by God, there is an alternative. And there's a much brighter alternative that doesn't see billions being handed over into private investors' pockets. We need to start investing in Irish people, in communities, in villages and towns, in the schools, in the public transport, into jobs, into infrastructure. That's what's going to get us out of this recession, nothing else. And I think, you know, using the term austerity, it's one of these surgical words that they use, you know, or clinical words. And we need to call it what it is. It's hurt, it's pain, it's taking money out of our pockets, taking money out of our community's pockets, and that's what it is. And it's hurting people. And I've seen it firsthand, that people have, you know, it's broken people, and they've seen no alternative out of it than to take their own lives. And that's how grim it is. You know, and I was at a public meeting a while ago where I had a member of a government party criticising people in rural Ireland and having a go at them and saying that by living in rural Ireland, that is the cause of suicides. And that shows again how out of touch they are. Suicide isn't caused because you live in rural Ireland. Suicide is caused when someone reaches a breaking point. And for many, many people, they're reaching that breaking point very, very fast. But there is an alternative. And Sinn Féin are standing up to these people. And we're fighting them. We're fighting them in communities, villages, at a national level, in Leinster House, in the European Union. At every forum, Sinn Féin are challenging them and putting forward logical alternatives to the hurt and pain and misery that they're shoving down our throats. And I think people will have an ideal opportunity now when the austerity treaty comes before us. And it shouldn't just be a referendum on the hurt and pain and misery that austerity contains. This should be a treaty on this government and their policies that are ramming down our throats. And this should be an opportunity that people see is to say, look, enough is enough. We've taken enough. These cuts and taxes are not going to get us out of it. And people need to come out and send a clear message in May or June or whenever they call the date for that referendum. And they need to send home a strong message that Ireland says no. No to this government and no to the hurt and the pain and the misery. It's about time people got up off their backsides and started fighting back. And that fight back is starting, as I said, and it needs to continue until they change their path or until we change the government. So again, thanks a million to everyone for coming along.
Thanks for giving us the venue, a very lovely venue to have here. I'd like to say thank you all for taking the time to come out here tonight when you could have been doing much more enjoyable things, and it's just testimony to the strength and the anger that there is out there. I'd like to say thanks to John coming from Wicklow and Anthony and Johnny for coming here, and just like to say to you that if you could take the messages that you heard here tonight out to your friends and neighbours over the coming days and weeks. There will be a lot more meetings coming up, there will be a lot more events, campaigns on this. We have contact details for all of the TDs in Wexford and the county councillors in the Gorey district, their mobile numbers, their email addresses. If anyone feels they would like to express anything they heard tonight to those people, to take the message to them. As I say, the campaign will continue tomorrow, and anyone that has left their contact details will keep you updated on any further events which will be held. And thanks once again for coming here.